Okay, good morning. We're here for our weekly Marion County Board of Commissioners meeting. It is Wednesday, September 5th, 2018. We're here in the Senator Hearing Room at 555 Court Street Northeast. If you will join us, we'll start with the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we don't have anybody signed up for public comment this morning. So, Commissioner, if you want to go right into the consent calendar, we can do that.
All right. Chair Cameron, I make a motion to approve our consent calendar this morning. Only 2 items under business services. Approve a recommendation to adjust upward pay grades for classification 509 nurse practitioner, 557 behavioral health nurse 1, and 558 behavioral, that's hard for me, health nurse 2, and update specification of class code 557 behavioral health nurse 1. Public Works receive an officer's decision denying partition case 18011 O'Brien, clerk's file 5759. I move those to be approved.
Okay, I'll second the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So we have one action item today. Joe is here with us today. Receive and consider appeal of a hearings officer's decision denying variance case number 18-002. Clerk's file number 5758. Forgot the shaver there.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Joe.
For the record, Joe Fenimore. This item before you today is an application for a variance to replacement dwelling criteria. In Administrative Review Case 1722, the applicant applied to replace a dwelling that had been destroyed by fire in 1967. After finding that the replacement standards were not met, the request was denied by the planning director. That decision was not appealed. In this case, the applicant is requesting a variance to the replacement dwelling criteria. On April 23rd, the planning director issued a decision denying the variance. On May 8th, that decision was appealed to the hearings officer. The hearings officer conducted a public hearing on the matter on May 30th, left the record open until June 6th, and on August 8th, issued a decision denying the variance. That decision was appealed to the board on August 23rd. In the decision, in finding 7 on page 4, the hearings officer cites Marion County Code section 17-122-010, which states in part that the hearings officer has the power to vary or modify the strict application of any standards in the Marion County Code Title 17 in any case where such strict application will result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships with reference to requirements governing lot area, lot width, percentage of lot coverage, and number of dwellings, units, or structures permitted on a lot, height of structures, location, yards, signs, parking loading spaces, vision clearance, and other standards where limits for adjustment are exceeded. Variances to allow uses or new uses not otherwise allowed are prohibited, and variances to criteria and definitions are also prohibited. The hearings officer reviewed all the information in the record, and at the bottom of page 6, finds that if the applicant wants to have the replacement dwelling criteria reevaluated based on new evidence and argument, the replacement dwelling application is the proper vehicle for that review, not a variance. The hearings officer then concludes that in this instance, the applicant's request is to vary a criterion which is prohibited, and therefore she denied the variance request. In the appeal, the appellant states that the decision is factually incorrect because the preponderance of evidence was not discussed, and that a new case and that new case law needs to be introduced, and that they would like an opportunity to further investigate one of the replacement dwelling criterion. The applicant has agreed to extend the 150-day decision-making deadline if the appeal is accepted. The board has the options of accepting the appeal, remand the matter back to the hearings officer, accept the appeal and schedule a public hearing. Suggested hearing date is September 19th or later. Deny the appeal and uphold the hearings officer's decision denying the request. Staff recommends option 3, that the board deny the appeal and uphold the hearings officer's decision. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Sam.
Well, Joe, I've read this, and just so I and others understand, so originally this is a house that burns down in 1976, if I see it right, and normally you'd have a couple years to replace. Tell a little bit of history about what happened here.
Actually, it's 1967.
67,
Yes.
even worse.
And there are some provisions where we can go back and look at houses on properties that were destroyed. And it talks about being on the tax rolls for 5 years, Some other standards. In this case, the hearings officer found that it was removed from the tax rolls over 20 years ago instead of 5. But what she really said was this is not the variance is not the process to be used, because they're basically saying we don't meet the criteria, so we want to do a variance to this one criterion because we believe we meet the rest. And we can't do that. The variance procedure doesn't allow you to vary a criterion. It'd be the same as if someone wanted to come in and do a farm dwelling where they're supposed to meet the $80,000 test and they want to do a variance to only make $50,000. That's just something we can't do with the variance application.
Follow up?
No, not really. I think I get it.
So just, Joe, for clarification, the replacement standards were not met. Is there any, is it because of the design, or is it because of the time frame of not having the house replaced? I remember this was an issue in the legislature about, and this is on EFU land, I assume.
Correct, it is.
Right. So is it because of the time frame, or is it because what they're trying to build now is not?
It was because of the time frame. It was they didn't show that it had been on the tax rolls in the last 5 years.
Wow.
Or that it was unintentionally removed. But they need to do that with the administrative review application for a replacement dwelling, not the variance.
And is the same property owners or same family that owns the property?
Yes. So if they want to make their case that they talked about case law needing to be introduced and that kind of stuff, that needs to be done with the administrative review application for a replacement dwelling, not as a variance to the criteria.
So clarify that for me. So if we uphold the hearings officer's recommendation or hearings officer's decision, is there a way they can go back and reapply under a different circumstances? Is that what you just said?
Yes, they can apply for an administrative review for a replacement dwelling and go through that process again and make their new arguments based on their new evidence. That would be the vehicle instead of the variance application.
And describe that in case they're watching, obviously.
So that's what they did in 2017 when they applied for a replacement dwelling. We reviewed it at the staff level and denied it because we didn't believe they met the criteria, and they didn't appeal that to the hearings officer. They let it go and became a final decision. So now they can come back, they can reapply for that, same thing they did before, make all their new argument. We would send it directly to the hearings officer, because they're going to be making legal arguments.
Because you've already denied it, but you would refer it directly to the hearings officer now.
Correct. Okay. Also because they'd be making some legal argument that the hearings officer would probably need to weigh in on.
So then they would have a chance to get this house replaced through that process.
Correct.
Okay. And the hearings officer would make a decision based on the new criteria.
On the argument, yes, and evidence.
Gosh, this is one of those things where, and never mind, I don't want to say it. You know, you got the property and you got a house that burned down in 1967, you still own the property and you can't build a house, but there is another avenue for them to try to get this done.
Correct.
Well, I don't see anything else to do but to make a motion that we accept the staff's recommendation denying appeal and upholding the hearings officer's decision denying the request.
I'll second the motion. Any further discussion? Just to say that there is another alternative here, and I hope these folks will pursue that and see if we can get them to where they need to go. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Oops, we got time till 9:30.
Wilsonville by 10:30. You want to just recess for
Yeah, it looks like
15 minutes? So we are going to recess for 15 minutes. We'll have a public hearing that starts at 9:30 since that's the time we posted. So we are in recess. Okay, we are back. It is now 9:30. And we're going to open a public hearing. So open a public hearing under Public Works, public hearing to consider the City of Donald UGB amendment to expand the urban growth boundary, and first up is a staff report. So Brandon, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Brandon Reich, representing the Planning Division of Public Works. And with me here today is Mayor Rick Olmsted of Donald, City Administrator Heidi Bell, the City Planner Holly Byram, and also the City Transportation Planner Consultant. On June 12th this year, the City of Donald City Council approved an ordinance amending the city's urban growth boundary to add 76.7 acres for residential land and 10.9 acres for public land needs. The city requested the county concur in the urban growth boundary amendment. The county initiated the process to consider the amendment on August 1st this year, scheduling a hearing for today, September 5th. The city's population is forecasted to grow to 2,085 persons by 2034, approximately doubling the size of the city's existing population during the planning horizon. The city identified a need for 387 additional single-family dwelling units and 78 additional multifamily dwelling units by 2034, in excess of the existing units in the city. The city considered how much of the residential land need could be accommodated on existing vacant and redevelopable land within the existing urban growth boundary, as well as the likely future density of residential units developed within the city, and they determined that the city would not meet all future needed residential units within the existing urban growth boundary, and that the boundary would have to be expanded by 76.7 acres. And this acreage includes land needed for future rights-of-way, public facilities, parks. There's a 25% additional amount that's included in that number. The city has identified an expansion area toward the southeast of the existing city urban growth boundary and is asking the county to concur in the expansion. The city would also bring in 10.9 acres of land that contains the existing city stormwater detention area. The city's engineer provided an analysis that the area proposed to be added to the boundary is able to be serviced by city water and sewer service. Expansions to the existing city sewer treatment facilities are already being contemplated to serve existing and future development in the city. As well, the transportation network within the urban growth boundary was determined to be able to support the likely traffic from the area newly added to the boundary. In determining what land to bring into the UGB, the city considered all lands in study areas surrounding the city and worked with property owners to identify those lands likely to be developed during the planning period, to include those in the study area. Then within that study area, the land that had the least amount of prime farmland was considered first for addition to the boundary. The city identified sufficient land in an area toward the southeast of the city. The city determined the appropriate designations for the properties in its comprehensive plan are the residential and public designations. After the properties have been included in the UGB and given designations in the Donald Comprehensive Plan, but until the properties are annexed, the county must apply an urban zone consistent with the city plan designation. Marion County Code states that resource land, like the farmland being brought in, should be placed in an urban transition 20-acre zone. It's appropriate to zone this land added to the boundary with a residential comprehensive plan designation to preserve the land for future urban development while allowing the continuation of legally established uses and uses compatible with the plan designation. The land being added for the existing stormwater detention would be appropriately zoned public. Staff recommends the board concur in the City of Donald Comprehensive Plan Urban Growth Boundary Amendment and direct staff to prepare an ordinance approving the amendments to the Marion County Comprehensive Plan by adopting amendments to the City of Donald Urban Growth Boundary for 87.6 acres for residential and public land needs. Staff further recommends that the board concur in the redesignation of the properties newly added to the urban growth boundary from a Marion County plan designation rural plan designation of primary agriculture to a City of Donald Comprehensive Plan designations of residential and public, and approve the rezoning of the properties from a Marion County rural zoning designation of exclusive farm use to Marion County urban zone designations of urban transition 20-acre and public. And with that, I'm available for any questions you may have.
If I could,
go ahead.
Just one minor.
Commissioner.
I didn't hear you say in your recommendation that the 10 acres, was that included in the 76, or did you address it?
It is.
Okay.
The 10 acres is 10.9 for public land needs and 76.7
Okay.
So it's 86.6 total.
87.6 is what
87.6
the recommendation says, yeah. Okay, good. You have the questions
I've
for
got.
staff right now? Brandon, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to have the applicants going to come up, say anything? What? So just read this. Sure. Just read it, huh? So council's instructed me to read this. The following procedure shall be observed in the conduct of quasi-judicial hearings for the applicants. At the commencements of the hearing, a statement shall be made to those in attendance that, number one, identifies the applicable substance criteria. Two, states that testimony and evidence must be directed toward the identified criteria or other criteria in the plan or this title which the person believes to apply to the decision. And three, states the failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on the issue. Is that what you needed me to read?
Yes.
Now,
Now you
Mayor,
ask her, what does that mean?
Mayor, welcome.
Thank you.
And if you understood what all that means, then maybe you should come up here and be our legal counsel next week, huh?
Well,
Right?
we read similar statements at our public hearings.
Right.
And it's just sort of,
So we're just following the procedures to prevent
Thank you.
complications down the road. Thank you, Jane. So, Mayor, welcome. And for
Thank
the
you.
record, if you just introduce yourself.
yes,
Thank
hello,
you.
good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you again. I'm Rick Olmsted. I'm the mayor for the city of Donald. And for many years, we've been hearing from businesses saying, we wish there were more houses available for our workers in Donald because we attract workers, they have to commute from long distances, and
Come on,
after
Mike, just a little closer.
Sorry, and after a while, it becomes a burden on them, and they seek employment in other areas. That includes GK Machine. Bear Electric has always presented this as an issue. I was at a school board meeting for the North Marion School District, and their teachers and staff have the same issue. They need housing that's near where they work.
Mm-hmm.
And on Facebook, there's always people looking for houses so they can stay in the school district. So hopefully this process, where we're able to expand our urban growth boundary and eventually have housing, will resolve that problem. And this was an interesting process. It was seems like 9 months. We had citizens, we had elected officials, we had city staff, we had county, regional, and state partners, and we worked through the process, and we learned a lot, and I think we did it correctly. And we're here today, and hopefully you'll see that that this is a need that needs to be met, and vote your approval, and that will help us solve an issue for Donald and the surrounding area.
Well, thank you. Any
Well-
thoughts or questions from the mayor?
It's not a good question because I'm asking you to tell me if there was any opposition. Did you have some public hearings and what kind of testimony was presented?
We had two public, I would call town hall meetings. The second of which, Ben Williams of Friends of French Prairie was in attendance, and he commented during the meeting that we had that this was, I think he said this was the most transparent process he had seen for an expansion, and we've heard nothing from him or Friends of French Prairie since then.
Good. All right.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for your service
Thank you.
to the citizens of Donald and our community.
You're welcome.
And you mentioned a couple of businesses up there that have a big impact not only in your city, but throughout the whole state and the region. So it's a small little city that has a huge impact. Thank you.
Thought he might mention that new one that we went and looked at a couple of weeks
Yes,
ago, too.
the Hazelnut Growers of Oregon have established a world-class hazelnut processing facility, and they're the largest entity in the Donald Industrial Park, but the industrial park will be built out eventually and produce more businesses and have more employees with more housing needs.
And I have some of their chocolate-covered hazelnuts at my house. They're pretty good. I'm
That's
not sharing them
supposed-
with you.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Todd Mobley, would you like to come up and support?
I'll be available to answer any questions.
Okay. I guess that we have anybody in opposition. I don't have anybody signed up that says opposition, so no opposition. We want to have Brandon come back up, or,
Yes.
yeah, Brandon, you want to come up for any closing comments, or?
Nothing further to add. I guess to bolster or to support the mayor's comments, it was a very thorough process, marched through the law in a very, just a very direct manner, very clear manner. I think it's one of the first times in the state that we've applied the new study area for a UGB expansion as when the rule changed. And it will be applied many more times in the future, but this is one of the first. And I think the process was successful in that property owners were involved and asked about their willingness to be involved and expand their UGB and to be part of that in the future. So the city did a very thorough, very accurate job, I believe.
Yeah, I believe, and I should ask Rick or Heidi this, that I think didn't we use some lottery grants to help you with some of this planning?
I just remembered that I needed to say that.
Yeah, I remember we used some lottery dollars from our community services for Donald to help him with this planning process and going through
Yes.
some of the steps. So that was another example of how we could work together to help some of our smaller cities. And I always tell people this, we have 20 cities, most cities of any county in Oregon, and you take out some of the 3 or 4 big ones, and they're all small, and we want to be able to help in those processes. So that's great.
A little off the subject, but we're going to have lunch later today with officials from Woodburn. As you know, their 20-year process to accomplish the same thing. They'll probably be looking with a little envy about how well this appears to go. However, they kind of paved the way and showed the problems that said you couldn't do this, that maybe make it easier for cities in the future to be able to do what they'd like to do. Chair Cameron, I'm going to be as bold as to make a motion to close the public hearing to approve the recommendations. One, that we concur in the City of Donald's Comprehensive Plan Urban Growth Amendment, direct staff to prepare an ordinance approving the amendments to our Marion County Comprehensive Plan, adopting amendments to the City of Donald Urban Growth Boundary of 87.6 acres for residential and public land, and further concur in redesignation of properties newly added to the urban growth boundary from a Marion County Comprehensive Plan, rural designation, I'm going to keep reading it all, of primary agriculture to City of Donald Comprehensive Plan, designations of residential, public, and approving rezoning of the properties from Marion County rural zoning designation of EFU to Marion County urban zoning designations of U20 and P public respectively, as shown in attachment A. So
I didn't quite understand that. Could you repeat that, please? I'll second the motion.
Did I miss anything, Brandon?
No, that's correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Wow. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Those came in well prepared and the good process that you went through. And Brandon, while you're there, and just a question, can you comment on what changed? You mentioned the new law. This isn't we didn't use the short version. We did use the short version? No. Okay, because the short version is not working anywhere. But what changed?
Well, the state, when they adopted the streamlined approach to expanding UGBs, they left in place a traditional approach. But then both approaches come back together when you establish a study area. So what's changed here is how to establish a study area, how to identify the properties to include in the study area, then once you're in the study area, how to select which properties you'd expand the UGB into. So both traditional and simplified have a new process for identifying a study area, identifying the areas to expand the UGB. So
Okay.
that changed, that's new, and that applies going forward.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from Brandon? Thanks for your service, Brandon.
Thank you.
Appreciate all you do.
Both Brandon and Joe are good.
I send people to them all the time. They don't always get the answers that they want to hear, but they try to figure out how to help them. What is the date today?
The 5th. You
I
announced it.
guess it's all for me to sign here, so let me read, because I need you need to get going here. So let me read the commissioner's calendar for the next week. Today, which is the 5th, we are at noon, we're at Woodburn County meeting, Luis's Taqueria, 523 Front Street, Woodburn. Good food there. Today at 2 p.m., we are meeting with Michael Iwee, Lieutenant Michael Iwee from the Oregon State Police, in the Silverton Conference Room here on the 5th floor, 555 Court Street, Northeast. Today, 5:30 to 7:30, the Marion County Fair Board meeting, location in the Commissioner's Boardroom on the 5th floor. Tomorrow, Thursday, the 6th, Department Head Elected Officials meeting, locations is in the Commissioner's Boardroom here on the 5th floor. Tomorrow on the 6th at noon, SEDCOR Awards Lunch. Location is at the Salem Convention Center at 200 Commercial Street. And then on Monday, the 10th, Association of Oregon County Steering Legislative Committee and Board meeting, and that's from 8 until 3 o'clock. Location is the Local Government Center, 1201 Court Street Northeast. And then on Wednesday at 9 a.m., we're back here for our weekly board session. And since we are, anything you want to talk about? Because I know you got to get to
Well, I'm just going to tell where I'm
retirement,
going. I've
yeah.
got a young, well, he was a young man that started in our garbage business, is retiring and having a celebration in Wilsonville starting at 10:30, and I think I will be able to make it. But he's just a good guy. Frank Lonergan's his name, and now he quits working in the industry. He's running for Woodburn mayor. I think I'll do this. I can support him. I have supported him. He's just a wonderful person. So that's where I'm going, and then I'll see you at lunch in Woodburn.
All right, okay. Well, good meeting. It was great to see that process go really well. I think we will adjourn for the day.